The distress beacon pulsed weakly through the asteroid field, barely a whisper against the cosmic void. Anakin adjusted his salvage ship's sensors, frowning at the irregular signal pattern. Most beacons were automated, sterile things, but this one carried something else. Something organic. Probably another false alarm, he muttered. But his fingers were already plotting an intercept course. The wreckage floated like a broken promise among the rocks. What remained of the research vessel Constellation's Edge was twisted metal and shattered dreams. Its hull breached in a dozen places. Anakin maneuvered his ship closer, magnetic clamps engaging with a hollow thunk that echoed through his cockpit. He'd seen plenty of wrecks in his 5 years as a Most were empty coffins, their crews long since claimed by the void. But something made him check anyway. Maybe it was the way the beacon kept calling. Maybe it was the loneliness of space making him sentimental. The airlock hissed as he cycled through, emergency lights casting everything in blood-red shadows. His boots clanked on metal grating as he moved deeper into the dying ship. The beacon's source was in the research BAO. Course it was. Scientists always thought they could cheat death with redundant systems. That's when he heard them. Tiny roars. No louder than a kitten's mew, but unmistakable in their fury. High-pitched squeaks that demanded attention, that refused to accept abandonment. Anakin's heart hammered as he rushed forward, pulling aside a collapsed bulkhead. There, in a shielded biopod, still somehow maintaining power, were two of the most impossibly beautiful creatures he'd ever seen. Dragons, not the mythical earth creatures from ancient stories, but their alien equivalents Draconis, Stellaris, if the fading research notes were accurate, each no larger than his forearm, with scales that shimmered between silver and gold, catching the emergency lights like captured starlight. Membranous wings, still translucent with youth, fluttered weakly. Their eyes intelligent, terrified, pleading locked onto his. One roared again. A sound so small and desperate it shattered something in Anakin's chest. Hey, it's okay, he whispered, hands shaking as he opened the bio. I've got you. The twins stumbled forward on unsteady legs. The research notes scattered nearby told a grim story of illegal genetic experiments. A crew dead from a catastrophic engine failure. And these two hatchlings, barely 3 days old, abandoned to die in the dark. The smaller one, its scales more silver than gold, collapsed against Anakin's glove. The other, slightly larger, with golden overtones, tried to maintain a protective stance but swayed with exhaustion. Humanity had been the newcomers to the galactic stage for barely a century. Most species viewed them with curiosity or contempt, these impulsive, emotional creatures who formed bonds too easily, who felt too deeply. The Galactic Council had strict regulations about endangered species. Draconis stellaris was sacred to the Zephroni Empire, who'd been searching for a viable breeding population for 3 generations. Taking these hatchlings could mean prison. Intergalactic incident, the end of his salvaging career. The silver one nuzzled into his palm, a barely audible purr vibrating through its tiny body. Screw it, Anakin said. 3 months later, Anakin's ship had transformed from a lonely salvager's vessel into something else entirely. The cargo bay now sported a heat-regulated nest, constructed from salvaged thermal blankets and the softest materials he could afford. Amidala, the silver dragon, perched on his shoulder as he piloted through a routine debris field, her tail wrapped loosely around his neck. Her brother, whom Anakin had named Skyfire for the golden sparks that sometimes danced along his scales, sprawled across the co-pilot's seat, snoring tiny puffs of smoke. They'd grown, each now the size of a large cat, with wings that could actually achieve brief flight in the ship's corridors. Their roars had graduated from squeaks to something that could rattle loose panels. But more than their size had changed. The bond had deepened. Anakin felt it constantly, now a warm presence in the back of his mind. Amidala's curious observations about stellar phenomena. Sci-fi's protective instincts whenever the ship's sensors detected other vessels. It wasn't telepathy exactly, more like emotional resonance, a connection that made his small ship feel like a home instead of a prison. The comms crackled. Unidentified vessel, this is Zephyr, Imperial Cruiser, Eternal Wind. We're detecting illegal biosignatures aboard your ship. Prepare for boarding. Anakin's blood ran cold. Amidala tensed on his shoulder, her tiny claws gripping tighter. Sci-fi's head snapped up, smoke curling from his nostrils. He could run. His ship was fast, modified with every credit he'd earned. But the Zephyr had jump-capable cruisers. He'd never make it to a human colony. This is salvage vessel redemption, Anakin replied, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. I'm transmitting my story now. He sent everything, the wreck coordinates, the research notes documenting the illegal experiments, the video logs of finding 2 dying hatchlings abandoned in the dark, his own logs showing 3 months of care, of learning, of love. The silence stretched for an eternity. Then a new voice came through, deeper and resonant with authority. Human, this is Matriarch Shith. Those hatchlings are the last of their kind in this sector. By law, they must be returned to our breeding program. Amidala trembled. Skyfire leaped to Anakin's lap, small body radiating defiance. With respect, Matriarch, Anakin said, they're not specimens. They're people, and they've chosen their home. Humans, the Matriarch sighed, always choosing emotion over logic. Do you understand what you're asking? Dracona's Stilorus bond for life. Once imprinted, they cannot be You would be responsible for their well-being until your death, approximately 60 years. They will live for 3 centuries. What happens when you're gone? Anakin looked at Amidala, then at Skyfire. In their eyes, he saw trust, family. Then I guess I'd better live a long life, he said. And when I can't care for them anymore, I'll find someone who will. Someone who sees them as family, not breeding stock. Another long silence. Permission granted, the Matriarch finally said, and Anakin could hear the smile in her voice. But know this, human you will be monitored. The Zephyr Empire does not forget. Prove us right to trust you, or prove humanity's reputation for reckless compassion is truly a strength. The Imperial cruiser's signature faded from his senses. Amidala nuzzled his cheek, purring. Skyfire unleashed a triumphant roar, still small, but growing stronger. Anakin laughed, the sound echoing through his ship-turned home. In the vast loneliness of space, he'd found something precious. Not just to dragons, but a reminder of what made humanity special. They loved recklessly. They bonded impossibly. And sometimes, in the cold mathematics of the universe, that was enough. His heart had become a home, and tiny roars had led him there.